Hey, thanks for tuning into my podcast. This is Big Head on the Block, hosted by me, Tim Henderson, aka Big Head. As we begin this podcast, I would like to say thanks to all my listeners for tuning in, and I appreciate all the feedback that I get. Today, we're going to go right into a shoot, don't shoot situation. This is no training scenario built and put together by an academy, right? This is a real life, real street scenario. This is, hey, there's trouble around the corner. You better be prepared. So let me give you some backstory. I work 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm a sergeant on evening shift. I think it was around 2016, 2017. Not exactly sure, but the actual date's really not significant to the story, right? So I'm on Essendon Perkins, close to the Mayfair area. So the call went out one early morning. Everybody just kind of in the wind, kind of, we all ate breakfast. We just kind of chilling. There's not a lot of activity on the radio, so we just letting the calm be calm. We're not actively out here, doing a whole lot other than some neighborhood patrols, right? So I'm in the Mayfair area, known drug, high crime area. However, it's still relatively early in the morning. I'm just checking on businesses, riding through the neighborhood, see, who's out and about, just kind of casual patrolling. Well, like always, when everything's quiet, inevitably something is going to happen. So as I told you, I'm in the Essendon Perkins area by Mayfair, and it's, a couple of minutes from Essendon Perkins, but that's the closest kind of cross street I can give you. Most of the other people on the squad, they're nowhere near where I'm at. I didn't know it at the time, but let me tell you about the dispatch. The dispatcher comes on the air and she says, there's a anonymous call that an agitated white male has two black males at gunpoint. Then they gave the location. Well, look, I'm probably 30 seconds away from the actual call itself. So as a sergeant, we're responsible for monitoring the field, taking care of miscellaneous paperwork that has to be done on a daily basis. We're also responsible for being out in the field in case our officers have any questions or need any help on a specific call, right? Well, at this point in time, when the call goes out, I'm the only one anywhere close to this call. So I'll tell headquarters, I'll be primary, send me the call. She sends me the call, and of course, I've already heard the dispatch, so I kind of know what's going on. I ask headquarters again, any chance we can get a call back to get some updated information? Because the one thing about responding to a call like this is you have the initial information, but you don't know if it came in 10 seconds ago or 2 minutes ago. You don't know if the person is moving, if he's still in the same area. So with an active call involving a weapon, you kind of want to have as much information and data as you can as you're responding, so you can kind of process in your mind, what your response could likely be. Now, it's a fluid situation, a dynamic situation, so you have to use your experience once you get on scene and, just react to whatever's in front of you. So as I'm en route, the closest backup I got is probably 4 or 5 minutes away. So I'm on an island right now, but that's okay. I've been a cop for about 25 years. Like I said, I don't have any problem responding to this call alone, as any cop would. They're going to respond, even though it's better to wait for backup. In situations like this, you just get there as quick as you can, and you do whatever you got to do to survive until your backup arrives. So it's as simple as that. It's nothing. We don't sit here and think, oh man, I got to wait for backup for this reason and that reason. Yeah, I'd rather have 2 or 3 people, but guess what? I'm fighting alone for a while. My backup's coming. I could hear them, and look, everybody on squad, they're wanting to get there quick, right? They're wanting to get there. Just like if I wasn't in the area, I would want to get there quick. We don't like officers being put in these lethal force situations by themselves. We want to be there. A real cop always wants to be in action, by the way. It's as simple as that. If there's a bank robbery, I want to be the one responding. If there's a shootout, I want to be the one that is responding. That's just my nature. And real cops that enjoy this type of work, they want to be the difference maker. They want to be the guy that shows up. Now, tactically speaking, responding alone, you have to make sure that you're on high alert as you enter the area, because you don't know. You don't know where the call came in. Could this be an ambush? Could it be a bogus call? And look, there are ambushes and there's bogus calls and everything in between. So you just never know. It's unknown variable, as I always say, unknown variable. And you have to be able to react to what you see. So as I get in the area, my backup's still telling me that, where they're coming from. So I know they're still a few minutes away. No big deal. I'm focused on trying to find this guy. So whenever I go down the street to the area that they said he was at, he wasn't there. And I told headquarters, I know it's an anonymous call. If y'all have a callback number, can you call them back? Tell them we don't need their name, but see if they still see the person. Because at this point, it's unfounded. However, I'm still actively looking, right? As I'm waiting on a response from her, I hear backup telling me, this is where we're at. We're coming. So in my mind, I know the city good enough to know I'm still probably 2-3 minutes away from getting back up. As I continued to patrol the area, I didn't get any updates. They could not get back in touch with her. So I said, headquarters, he's not in the area that the call originally gave me as a area, to respond to. So I told her I'll be checking the area. Well, if you remember in one of my podcasts, I said Commissioner Reagan on Blue Bloods told his son Jamie, treat every tour like there's trouble around the corner because one day there will be. Well, this was an exactly good quote for what I was fixing to experience. So as I continue looking through the area, I turn on a street. I turn on a couple streets. I don't see anything. I turn on a street, and it's kind of a short street. And when I do turn on it, I start driving, and tucked away in a corner is 2 black males and a white male. The white male has a gun, and I see this, and I'm already committed to the street, and he sees me, they see me. He has the gun in his hand, but he's not pointing it at him at the time. Through his body language and his mannerisms, I can see that he's agitated with them. I can see that he's actively telling them something in an agitated state. I can't hear him because I'm not close enough. I can see the 2 black males standing there and kind of just listening, but he had the gun. They didn't, right? So whatever he was telling them, they were just kind of casually standing there. Once I saw him and realized that he saw me, I was already committed to the street, right? I just happened to point him. So instead of doing anything else, I made the tactical decision to get out of my unit after turning it to the left a little bit so I could use the engine block as a shield if he decided to start shooting at me. But I had to make the quick decision because he started walking toward me. I had to make the quick decision. I exited my unit. I engaged him with my weapon. I pointed it at his upper torso area, chest, head area, and I gave him loud verbal commands to drop the gun. Now, it has to be understood by my audience. This guy started walking away from these two male subjects. When he did, he never had the weapon in a threatening position. It was hanging by his side, face down. He was holding that gun by the handle. He didn't have his finger on the trigger mechanism at the time, right? So in order for me to engage him in gunplay, if you will, I have to fear death or great bodily harm. And neither one of those was an emotion I was experiencing at the time. So as he starts walking toward me, I'm on point, and I tell him, drop the gun. Well, he starts walking toward me, not in an aggressive manner, because he's really, it looks like he's just trying to ignore me and get away from me, but he's not running or anything. He's just literally just kind of ignoring me. And I said, hey, man, did you hear what I said? Drop the gun. And he said, and I quote, fuck you. I ain't done nothing wrong. And I said, that's the wrong answer, fella. I said, you don't drop that gun and you're going to wind up getting yourself shot out here. And he just ignored me. He didn't answer and he didn't respond. So I have a mic that I keep on my center chest area by my vest, right? So I'm able to grip my mic and I tell headquarters and everybody responding, white male approaching me with a gun, refusing to drop it. Now, it's important that my backup hears everything, and it's important that everything is documented. So I'm still on target with my right hand. I am talking through my mic using my left hand, and I'm explaining the headquarters and my backup, everything that's occurring. So, even though they're coming fast, now they're coming faster because they realize this is fixing this is an intense situation that's fixing to get bad, right? Now we have a little bit of dialogue, and he's walking. He's not walking fast. He's just casually walking. And I said, "Hey, man, I'm not going to tell you again, drop the gun." And he refused to drop the gun. And I'm talking to him just like I'm talking to you, projecting my voice. I'm letting him see that I'm here for business. I'm not here to play games with him. And look, it's important when you're in these intense situations that you remain calm. ABC, always be cool, right? Don't overreact. Don't bring chaos to the scene, because once chaos is at the scene, it never leaves. So me hollering at him, motherfucking him, telling him this, that, and the other, it ain't time for that yet. It's time to remain calm. That way I don't elicit an emotional response from him, right? So young cops, remember that. ABC, always be cool. Don't bring chaos to the scene, because it will never leave. Once you have escalated to that point, now, if you have to do it right away, then fine, but make sure it's the right course of action. I said, "Hey, man, you need to drop that gun." He said, "I didn't do nothing wrong." And I said, "If you don't drop that gun, you're going to wind up making me shoot you. Do you really want to die in the middle of the street behind this?" And he just ignored me. So I said, "Hey, man, drop the gun before I have to shoot you." Now, the whole time he's got the gun pointed straight down. I didn't fear death or great bodily harm. So I have not engaged him by firing a shot at him, okay? It's important that you understand my state of mind is what's important at the time. My state of mind, how my emotions are, what I'm feeling. Tactically, I'm sound. I have my weapon pointed at him. Bap, bap, double tap, right? If he even acts like he's fixing to lift that gun up, he's going to be shot and probably killed in the middle of the street. But he doesn't lift the gun up, but he still continues walking. Now, we're about 40 feet away from each other. And at this point, my backup still hadn't arrived. He was walking toward me in the street, but he walks up on the sidewalk now in an attempt to avoid me. Now, let's talk about the area real quick. We're going to stop right there. Then we're going to talk about the area. I patrol these areas quite often. I knew that it's a predominantly black neighborhood, right? I didn't know of any white people that actively live there. So I have no idea where this guy came from, why he's there, all right? I have no idea. All I know is he was standing there with the two black males at gunpoint, although he wasn't pointing it at him. And now he's walking away. I have no idea where he's walking. So he gets up on the sidewalk, and then he kind of is not parallel, but as he's walking, I'm every movement that he's making, I'm following him with my weapon, and I'm telling him, "Hey, man, drop the gun for real, man. Just drop the damn gun, man. Stop playing games." And he just ignores me. Well, he walks past me, still has the gun hanging down, pointed toward the ground, holding it in the hand with the handle. Still no finger on the trigger mechanism. As he walks past me, I stay on point. Now I have his back toward me, and he continues walking, but he crosses the street and he starts walking up towards some houses. So as he's walking toward the houses, I have something else to factor in, right? I have to factor in, where the hell is this guy going, and why is he walking toward these houses? He has a gun in his hand. At that point, I have to make a decision. I cannot let this guy approach these houses and potentially make a victim out of somebody else, right? So I tell him, "Hey, man, I'm not playing with you. Do not walk toward them houses. Drop the gun." He ignores me. He has the gun hanging down, and like I said, his back is faced me. So I have to make a decision. I have to act right now. My backup's still about a minute and a half away. So disarming this guy is the first thing that's a priority in my mind, so he doesn't have the ability to get into these houses. Because if he tried to get into one of these houses, it may be a situation where I have to take him literally as a threat to hurt someone else and maybe wind up having to use deadly force to stop him. However, I make a tactical decision, and it's a reactive decision, and I don't care what anybody thinks about it. But here's what I did. As he's walking away from me. He had crossed out of the street, over the sidewalk into the grass. So he's about maybe 15, 20 feet away from this house. It's game time. I got to do something now, right? So what I do is this. I have my weapon pointed at him. I tuck it into my chest, and I do that because if he and I have a physical encounter, I want to be able to shoot quickly without him being able to grab my weapon. Then I hollered at him to try and distract him, to let him think that I was a good little ways away from him. He ignored me. He kept walking. I did that little tactical walk that you see SWAT guys doing whenever they're doing movement, toward a house or something. And I tried to be as quiet as I could. That way he wouldn't hear me coming, right? So I quit giving verbal commands at that time. As I got close to him, I saw his hand was still holding the gun by the grip, no finger on the trigger. So I grabbed his hand and the top part of the gun, and I didn't have any choice but to grab the hand area because it was holding it. But I secured the gun as tight as I could, and I made sure that I had the hammer so he couldn't pull the trigger, right? So I had a death grip on it. And look, when I tell you all the years I work out, it's for moments like this. I try to stay strong, and I try to be powerful for these moments, right? So there was no way this guy had a chance of doing anything with this gun. Well, simultaneously, I yanked the gun back from him. He initially resisted, but then he just let it go. But also simultaneous to this was all one movement. So I'm giving you a little description, but it's all one movement. Grabbed the gun, pulled it back. He resisted. I used the same arm and I elbowed him forward real hard to disengage him from me and the gun. So now I have the gun secured. He's still walking toward the house. I have no idea why he's walking toward the house. Now I have a gun in my hand, which is, I have my gun in my right hand. I have his gun in my left hand. I think about putting the gun, into my pants area and into my vest, but I don't feel comfortable because this is a revolver and it has some kind of mechanism around the handle, and I couldn't figure out what to do with it because I was not about to put this gun and discharge it and shoot myself, right? So I had to make the next best decision. He was walking. He wasn't paying attention. I took the gun and I put it in between some bushes by the neighbor's house because we was in close proximity to the neighbor's house. There was nobody else out here, and I didn't have anything else to do with the gun because I needed to have my hands free to stop this guy, right? So once I did that, saw nobody was around, I put my gun back in my holster. He gets close to this house and I say, do not try to go in that house. He reaches for the door. I come from behind. I slam him up against the wall. I pin him to the wall and I tell him that he's being detained. I don't know what charges I have on him yet because this is so fluid. I haven't had time to process charges. I just know what I saw and I know the situation that I'm in, and I need to get him handcuffed for everybody's safety. So he refuses to let me handcuff him. Now listen, back then I was bench pressing 400 pounds. I was shoulder pressing 315 pounds, right? I was very strong. This guy didn't want me to handcuff him. I had him pinned against the house with my forearm. I was using all the strength I had to pull this guy back, to pull his arms back. Couldn't get it. He was probably about 240, 250. He was a little older gentleman, but he was country strong. So I didn't have any choice at that time. I kept him pinned against the house, and I asked if anybody was close. Well, Leo Wallace wound up being the first one on scene. So let me tell you why I got him pinned up against the house again, to stop him from entering the house that I don't believe that he belongs in. I think this guy just was walking toward this house, right? So as I have him pinned against the wall, understand I don't have a taser, I don't have a nightstick, and I don't have pepper spray. I only have, my hands and some handcuffs, right? And the reason I don't use any of that stuff anymore is because I think police officers have become too dependent on these particular items, and I think that they utilize them before they need to in certain situations where you can go hands-on. And coming up before all this technology came out, we went hands-on a lot. And I found it a lot easier to do that. And you might say, well, it ain't working for you at this time. Well, actually, it is working for me because I got him pinned against the wall and he can't move. So I have him incapacitated enough to where when my backup gets here, we can make an alternate plan and have an alternate strategy, right? Leo Wallace shows up. As he shows up, I tell the guy, hey, man, now I'm going to tell you, if you don't do everything I tell you, any movement that you make that's not exactly what I tell you to do is going to be considered an act of aggression, and we're going to treat it as such, and this officer will tase you. And I said, Leo, I'm fixing to get his hands behind his back and handcuff him. If he makes any move other than to allow me to handcuff him, I want you to tase him because it will be an act of aggression, right? He's been non-compliant the whole time. So as Leo's standing there, he pulls his taser out and he's telling the guy to listen to me also. Not that this guy's paying attention because he really don't want to hear anything we have to say. He just wants to be defiant and do what he wants to do. So he does let me handcuff him because I think he understood that Leo was going to pop him with that taser. And let me tell you, them tasers don't feel good. I don't care how big and bad you are. When they hit you, they hurt. So he lets me handcuff him. Now, we code for it, which means the scene is safe, right? It means that we're secure where we're at. So I tell Leo, thanks for coming and helping. About that time, about 8 other officers show up. So everybody's responding and everybody's in disbelief that the situation was handled in the manner it was, because just from hearing the dispatch, the things that I were telling dispatch, and telling my backup, it was pretty clear that this was probably going to be a lethal force encounter. But things worked out. He didn't put me in a mindset where I thought death or great bodily harm was imminent. So I never pulled the trigger. If he would have done anything to put me in fear of death or great bodily harm, he would have been shot. Simple as that. I had no issues with it. Now, when my lieutenant arrived on scene, he and I kind of differed about how the call should be handled. This guy, he wasn't in a good state of mind, and he actually was attempting to walk in a house that was his. But if you remember, I told you, I didn't know of any white people that lived in the area, so I didn't realize what was going on. During questioning, he told us that the reason he was mad and confronted the 2 black males is because he thought they were the ones who broke into a camper that he has parked outside his house, right? So he had just moved in the neighborhood about a week prior, and I had no idea that he was there, nor did I have any idea who he was. Now, a situation like this, we tried to attempt, I knew the 2 guys that was the initial victims, if you will, of the case. So I sent a couple of my guys over there to talk to them. Of course, they wouldn't come to the door. So we couldn't get any information from them to charge him with anything that happened there. So there's some menacing laws and some other things about being in public with a gun. We had to do a little research. We found out that, we had some misdemeanor charges that were relevant in this particular case. So we eventually charged him with a misdemeanor. We didn't take him to jail. But while we were talking to him, we noted that he had like 15 guns laying around the house. And we said, hey, man, we're not taking you to jail. However, we don't trust your state of mind and we don't want you to go back and hurt these guys. So would you be willing to allow us to secure these weapons, put them in found property, and let you come back and get them at a time where, you're not as emotional and you're making good decisions? And he agreed to it. So our weapons guy, Randy Bonaventure, I think he's the one who kind of went through the guns and secured them and stuff. And to note, we went back and we got the gun. I went back and picked up the gun that I had hidden between the bushes. And whenever I picked it up, I showed Randy Bonaventure the gun, and I was like, bro, I have no idea what this is. And I wasn't going to put it on my person because I didn't want it to accidentally shoot me. He kind of laughed about it. So I gave him the gun. Never talked to him about it since then, so I have no idea. It was a revolver, an old revolver, and I have no idea what the mechanism is. But he handled it because he was the gun expert. And look, after you deal with situations like this, there's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of emotions going on, and several of the people that I'm friends with on the squad, we sat around like cops do after these calls, and we shot the breeze. And they was like, man, we just knew you was going to have to shoot that guy, man. And I was like, yeah, well, he never gave me a reason to fear for my safety. So I didn't have to shoot him. But make no mistake about it, people. Cops, whenever you wear a gun for a living, I don't care what you call yourself. You potentially a gunslinger, right? You wear a gun for a living. You're going to be put in shoot, don't shoot situations. You're going to be put in situations where you have to make rapid decisions quickly. That's why you need to make sure that you do your training with the pistol range, but also make sure that mentally you're trained and prepared for these moments, because when you're by yourself, even if you have backup, you have to make decisions. You have to keep your emotions under check, right? If you're a gunslinger, you got to be ready to pull the trigger. You already have to have it in your mind. This is what I do for a living. This may eventually happen. Now, most cops go their whole career and never have to pull the trigger. And for them, kudos. I'm glad that you never were put in that situation. But you have to be prepared for that situation. So young cops, y'all out here chasing money, because cops chase money now more than they chase anything, right? And back in our era, that wasn't our primary objective. We enjoyed coming to work. We enjoyed the work. We got paid enough to survive, not to thrive, but to survive. And now, I don't know if cops have the same mindset. I saw it, over the last four or 5 years of my career. I saw that cops just didn't have the same mindset we did. So young cops, cops that have been there 5, 10 years, make sure you understand there may come a day where you have to pull that trigger in the line of duty. Make sure that you do it good. Make sure that you do it right. Now, one last note. A few days later, somebody had mentioned the fact that they had heard me on the radio and that they had heard this call go out. And they said, man, we thought you was going to shoot him. And he said, why didn't you shoot him? I said, like I told y'all earlier, never feared death or great bodily harm. And he said to me, tell the truth, man, was you worried about all the media scrutiny that was going to be involved in it? Because at that time, there was a kind of a negative vibe going on with police and police activities and situations that police were involved in nationally, right? So I told him, listen, man, nothing ever crossed my mind about the media. I could care less about the media. If I do something on the job and I'm justified in doing it, I have no reason to worry about the media. They can make me look bad all they want if that's what they choose to do. And I have no problem with the media. Our local media in the Baton Rouge area is outstanding. There's really good reporters, and most of the time they're extremely fair. But if you let outside influences into your mind at the time that you engage in a life or death situation, then you are doing yourself and the person that you're having the engagement with a disservice. So don't focus on any of that stuff. I didn't, and you shouldn't. And I tell you that to tell you this: treat every tour like there's trouble around the corner, because one day there will be. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Big Head on the Block. I'm Tim Henderson, the host. I look forward to dropping another podcast soon. Please give us any comments, likes, dislikes, or any topics y'all would like to discuss. Thank you.